Hello YouTube, and welcome to another one of my big mess tests. And if you've watched the previous video, which was the technical video about putting the clutch belt back on this, where I showed how to replace a clutch on a Dyson, I did mention in there that I was going to be using this, as requested by somebody on the channel, to do a big mess test. And they said, can you do it with one of the older Dysons, such as the DC03, DC04 or DC07? So I thought, well, as this one hasn't been featured for a little while, why not let's see if the DC04 can cope with the big mess test. Here it is, all laid down before me. That is the contents of this mealer bag here, which the upright's been picking up, which was the contents of the big mess test the other night as well, plus all the other dirt that it had in its bag. So I will show you on the carpet what we've got down here. So basically, this is the landscape across the carpet, and we can see there that there is all kinds of stuff in here. This is really heavy, gritty rice particles, dust particles. There's clumps of cat hair and cat fur. There's just about everything here you could imagine. Great big piles of dirt. So will this Dyson be able to cope with this landscape? When I say a big mess test, it's a big mess test, because Vacuum Tests does them. He's managed to clog a few cleaners up doing them. So I thought, let's see if the Dyson can cope with all of this sort of stuff. And if it can't, then I'm going to have to bring in the big guns to clean up after it, because the Kirby will have to come out. If this gets blocked up and just refuses to go through it, then we will have to get the reinforcements. We will have to get the heavy mob, won't we? And see if the Kirby can get rid of it all. So, who thinks this will be able to cope with that? And there is quite a bit there. If I zoom out, that is pretty much the entire of my living room floor covered with big mess. So I'm going to put the camera on the end here, and we will watch and see if this machine can do it. There we go. So, as in before, once the bin gets to the max line, which on those is quite high up, I will stop and I will have to empty the bin into the carrier bags over there, because it's likely that I might have to empty it a few times. That's if it can actually cope without getting clogged up and blocked in the pipes. So let's go. Come on then, DC04, here's your time to shine. If you can't do this, the Kirby will have to come out and put you to shame. So the bin is full. It's actually above the max line, to be honest, so I do need to empty that now. There was a little hiccup there right at the beginning where the brush roll actually got jammed up and you could hear the belt slipping, so I had to clear the brush roll out. But it does seem to be alright again now, so we'll empty this and we'll carry on. I thought I was going to have to abandon the test before it even got through the first hurdle. There we go. Let's empty this. Like that. Put it back on and we'll go again. I won't be cleaning the pre-motor filter. We'll see what that looks like at the end because it was previously cleaned before we started the test. So, whoever said that this machine would clean up was correct, because it did. There's the room. Just get all this dirt off the camera now, which is now on the back of the screen. There we go. But it would appear that it's got most of the dirt up, and I think that's a pretty satisfactory result. I thought it was going to go all wrong at the beginning, because it appeared that the clutch was slipping on the brush roll, but all it seemed to be was that it was a small jam. Basically something had got in there and stopped it turning. So once that was cleared, I mean, it's pretty much cleared all the mess up in just 2 bins. So I'm just going to use the hose to get those from around the edge, because that's the true test, is whether this has actually got any suction left enough to be able to get the little bits up around the edge. So I'll just do that now. So I can say that there is a small amount of air being drawn in through this valve here, because I can hear it hissing. And I think the reason for that is that, like other machines that I've tried this test on, whilst it's picked everything up, what seems to have happened is what usually happens to a bagless cleaner, is that the shroud has got virtually, totally clogged. That shroud is where all the dirt comes in, right? That's what draws the air through that goes into the cyclone to be separated. Once that shroud gets totally clogged, it won't suck up anymore, basically. The cyclone won't work because it won't be able to draw any air through. So, whilst the bin, really, I mean, there's a slight bit over it there, but I never really filled it past the max line that much. And there is actually some room left in that bin, so we can see everything that's in there, basically. It's a mixture of fine and heavy dust in there. I mean, looking at the carpet here, there just doesn't appear to be anything left in. It looks really good. I'm really impressed with this old machine. The DC04 was always an old machine. I don't think it really deep cleans that much, but I don't think on this test I'm going to have to resort to getting the other Dyson out, because I think this has cleaned it well enough for me. I am pretty impressed. The machine's coped really well. So let's take the bin off and we'll have a look at the shroud here. So in order to get to the, we'll have a look at the pre-motor, because I know I didn't show it beforehand, but you have to trust me on that it was clean. So there we go, look at that. There's nothing on it, look. Absolutely nothing. So really, I mean, it's conclusive proof that Dyson's very earliest machines were just as good, and they were just as effective, if not better, to be honest, than the new ones. Because that light ball says that I need to clean that pre-motor filter every month. With this one, it was every 6 months, because they just don't get dirty. Well, they do, but it takes them a long time to get dirty. And, you know, it just seems like a little bit of a step backwards, that all this technology, all these years later, that now we're resorting now to have to clean filters every month. And I don't think that you do anyway, because I've been checking the filter on those, and they just don't seem to get dirty. So I will keep using those ones as long as I can, without cleaning the filter, and we'll see how long it actually takes for the filters in them to actually get dirty enough to need cleaning. Because I think they'll go much longer than 1 month. I think Dyson's just trying to cover themselves so that people don't forget to check the filters. But I don't think that they need to be done every single month. Well, not yet, I don't anyway. I may do later. But there's the pre-motor, as I say. The HEPA filter doesn't need to be checked because the pre-motor will separate everything out. We will just have a look at the shroud on it, so I'll just lift the bin off. We bring that out, and we can see there that, yes, basically all the holes around the shroud. I mean, there's a few free holes left there. That's why I still had some suction remaining, but it wasn't very much. So, effectively, it's there's the fine dust down the bottom of there. Let's just put that on the carpet. And we can see into the bottom there where the cyclone separates the fine dust out, and that's dropped down the bottom. But the majority of it, all the heavy dust and everything else and the fluff, is all in the outside, is where it should be. So, what do you make about that? That's pretty impressive, really, isn't it? For a machine this was made in about 2000. This was, so it's about 17 years old. So it's conclusive proof that old Dysons, they clean just as well as new Dysons, don't they, really? His technology was brilliant right back in the early days. The dual cyclone was a pretty effective machine, wasn't it? Even that little tiny brush roll, and it still got everything up. And that's with the clutch belts, probably original ones those are, I would imagine. Let's just have a look at the brush roll, see what's been caught around that. So there's the brush roll there. Initially it did appear to get jammed because I could hear it slowing down, but you know, with such a narrow path like that, there's a bit of threads caught around the end here, just around that end of the brush roll, but otherwise it's done really well. It's done really well, considering. So there we go. We're going to have 3 cheers for the Dyson DC04. It has passed my big mess test. I had my doubts, but it's done it. So I might have to try it with the DC03 and the DC07 as well, although I'm sure the DC07 will cope, but that's more powerful than this. The DC03 I have my doubts about, because that isn't anywhere near as powerful. It doesn't have anywhere near as big a bin, and I'd imagine that the bin would have to be emptied every time it did a pass. That's if it didn't get clogged. So, I think that'll do for today on the big mess test, and we'll see you again for the next one.